Nick, I'm going to try to get back to you. I'm hoping this is working. On the John Ryskamp article in which he jumped on Parentia and Auerback on, almost the opposite of what you usually jump on them for, and his criticism is they're naive. He said something about, no one's issuing credit, so why should those guys be issuing credit? So let's go. Ryskamp's, history is, he's the author of the book about eminent domain, the revolt against eminent domain, a justified revolt, in my opinion, even though I'm a central government planner. Because the decision in the city of New London to take private property, on the basis of a perceived community need when, the property was being used and useful and paying taxes and all that other stuff, took the issue of eminent domain, to a new height, and to me a completely unjustified height, and the decision was a really dastardly decision, was totally wrong. And so he's a champion of, kind of freedoms, personal freedoms and property rights and things like that. So what he's writing on here is stuff that has to do with, he actually put it in a way that the power elite are taking the government out of our society. Okay? That's their present objective. And they're doing that because government's getting in the way of them accomplishing what they need to accomplish. Now, I call the process that we're going through right now, Nick, you may have heard me refer to it as the great settling of accounts. Okay? The great settling of accounts. What does that mean? That means we're insolvent. We basically have a global bankruptcy. Okay? If the Financial Accounting Standards Board hadn't stepped in and taken mark-to-market accounting off the table, we'd all be bankrupt, right? The entire financial system would be bankrupt right now. Back to Stephen LeChance's paper. Please take another read of it. How debt money goes broke. The debt money system. That's how we met, Nick. The debt money system is broke. It's broken and it's insolvent. We cannot create the money to make the debt service payments on the debt that's already out there. So we are the definition of insolvent and broke and broken. And so the great settling of accounts has to happen. Now, we have two things. We have a interconnected global financial economy, okay, and we have no interconnected global financial bankruptcy court, okay. So it's left to each country to try to deal with liquidating. I think that's his term, the great liquidation. Mine is the great confiscation, okay, of settling these accounts. And that's where we're at, Nick. When you come right down to, what's the great elite power, is it the Bilderbergs or not, totally inconsequential, means nothing. This is all about economics and finance, political economy. So, I don't know why, he chose to step in on this point, because there's a lot of things that you could complain about Parentia and Auerback's, and I did a video last time, Nick, agreeing with you about the shortcomings of the Auerback and the Chartalists' presentation about the money system, okay? Why he chose to jump in here and to say, you guys are naive, this is strictly, the liquidation. We're in the liquidation phase. We're liquidating government out of society. We're liquidating wages and workers, out of society. We're doing all of that stuff. That's what's going on. And for him to jump in on Auerback's thing because of the issue of creating the credit, because to say that, you know, Latvia ought to repudiate the debts that were established in this financial calamity, and get back to creating its own money to restore monetary sovereignty. See, that's where that's where I agree with the Chartalists, is about monetary sovereignty is the most important thing. But again, you know, why? And this is where, when I read it through the second time, I was still saying, what is the point here? You know, what is the point here? And he says, you know, go to the law and start reading up on some more law books. Well, you know, maybe, but to me, it's the monetary system. That's how they did it. Okay, that's how they foisted this upon us, by having a corrupt Ponzi scheme of a monetary system. You acknowledge that, state that, not acknowledge it, but you state that. That's causal. Okay, that's causal. So if that's causal, you know, what's the remedy? You know, we got to do something else, Nick, besides being here and watching, you know, this train crash in slow motion by calling the play-by-play. Okay? We got to talk intelligently about what it is that's going on and what the causes are and what the solutions are, because if we start today, you know, we're late. Okay? And every day that goes by that we don't start to deal with the causes of the problems, we seem smarter every day because we're calling the play-by-play, but we're not doing anything about solving the problem. Okay? So anyway, you know, I go back to, you know, what was he really talking about? Ryskamp. Well, what was he really talking about? Why did he choose to criticize? And I left a comment on Eves that said, you know, it's time for Michael Hudson to jump in here, because Michael Hudson is really the guy who, in my opinion, you know, understands the political economy better than anybody. What's really going on with the international political economy better than anybody. And since we don't have, you know, again, since we don't have the global structure, and they're trying to put one in place, by the way, so that we will have the ability to, all of us, to get out of the government. That's the financial elite's job, right? Get the government out of the way so that the private central bankers of the world can get together, create another bank, the World Bank, the global World Bank, you know, the IMF on steroids, and we all give up our monetary sovereignty, you know, and we live by however they decide they're going to settle the accounts. That's the option, Nick. You know, either we do it ourselves or we succumb to them taking over. Monetary system, the monetary reforms. We can reform the monetary system and do away with all of those debts. You know, that's the thing. That's kind of the thing that sticks with me when I read Ryskamp's thing. Is it says, you know, if you really understood the law, you'd understand how we got here and understand what this is all about. You know, I agree with that. You know, how many people in Washington, you know, how many people on Huffington Post or even on E's blog are talking about what's the nature of the problem? How many of them have really assessed something that doesn't start with well-schooled financialists screwing up? It's not that. It's the money system. It's the nature, the structure of the money system, and we need to fix it. Anyway, Nick, interesting points. The global power elite, doesn't matter what you call them. You could give them any name you want. Doesn't matter. They control the system. This is their system. You know, ever since Bretton Woods and GATT and World Trade and all that stuff, it's been one monetary system, the debt money system, fractional reserve banking. Set it up. We all owe. Yeah, some of us are better off than others, you know, but we all owe. Thanks, sir.